This is the Game Dev Diary for the 30th of January 2023. This will be an update into what I've been doing the past 2 weeks, and we'll be mainly talking about a Coven of Cards, which is our final project, and we'll be given a official introduction to the project. What is a Coven of Cards? Well, it's a game where you play as a witch, amassing power. You and your coven are fleeing an inquisition, and you set up at a new town. You and those loyal to you must protect this town from all sorts of esoteric threats, while evading the inquisition that is coming for you eventually. It's a mixture of genres. It's not really possible to pigeonhole this into one genre. So it's an action RPG using an isometric perspective, sort of like Hades, where you have dash-based and casting combat. It's a roguelite, so at the end of each day you'll be sent to this combat area where you'll fulfill objectives and gather resources. It's a deck builder, so at the end of each period of the year, there is the Sabbath. There are 8 Sabbaths in a year, and there will be 8 Sabbaths in our game, being a mini-game involving tarot and playing cards. And it's also a survival game, which takes resources which are represented by playing cards, and you'll be crafting them into stronger resources, potions to help in combat, and so on. The gameplay is split into 4 locations. The town for questing and morality decisions. You'll be meeting with traders and NPCs here. The Covenstead for resource management and crafting. This is what I have jurisdiction over, and this is also where this Sabbath minigame will take place. The forest is for exploration and some mild combat. It's mainly for finding resources for your crafting, such as herbs or flowers. And at the end of the day, at the witching hour, the dreamscape will take you, and you will fulfill objectives and deal with malevolent spirits that are looking to do harm to the town. On this project, it's me, Mateus, and Monchil, but we are in talks with musicians and artists to assist us with production. And another thing I've been doing is, the first thing I've been doing is I've formatted our Discord server, which we have been using for communication and asset sharing and all sorts of design discussions. I formatted it such that it's conducive for people to come in and have a look at the project without seeing all the back-end technical talks and design discussions. On the left, you'll see that there are about 10 or so categories and a lot of collapsed channels that we use to meticulously organize all of the information about the project. On the right, you'll see that this is reduced to only 3 categories when you don't have the correct permissions or roles. There is all the information is obscured from a visitor, so they aren't intimidated by all of the information that's here, and they can only focus on what's in front of them. To assist our collaborators, I drew a rough sketch of what our playable area will be for this tutorial. It gets all the important information, so I didn't bother making it look amazing. On the left side, you have your homestead with the farms and the caravans in the house, and up the stairs, and to the right side you have the free area of a forest where you have combat and exploration, and you'll be taught the action parts of the game. For the house, that was the main thing I've been doing. I had to plan on how the house would look. I drew up a blueprint in isometric. Just generally how the house would be laid out. I had a few things I had to take into account. For example, I had to have a cauldron, a storage space. I had to have a bed and a crib, since a sick mother with her newborn child is a major narrative point of our tutorial area. And other than that, I had to make it look lived in and period appropriate. It's drawn to scale, vaguely, and there is this blueprint that I found online, which I used vaguely for the format. So since it was all done to scale, I could easily make a primitive white room in Unity, which is what I did here. So I made this first since it would be the fastest to make, and if anything happened, I wouldn't have to worry about not having anything to show, not having an area to play in, because though it doesn't look nice, this has all the functionality that is needed for the house. But I did have more time, so I moved on, and sort of put a bit more detail, found some models on the Unity asset store and plugged them in. There are still some primitives, but it's looking a lot better now. It's still obviously not done, since the walls are like completely matte color, and the space is not very well utilized. There's a lot of blank areas, and not a lot of personality to it. It looks a bit cobbled together. Which brings us to how the house is in its current state, which is looking a lot better. It's, I'd say 85% done. There are a few areas that need development. For example, there is some spaces. If I can get my pen, I can start drawing. There's some spaces where a window might go here. This entire area might be scrapped for something slightly different. There is a thing where what we're trying to do is we're going to have the rooms be, or the walls extend up, and whenever you go near them, it changes for this lower to the ground version. A design restriction using our isometric cameras that we're offset by 30 degrees. So whenever the player character stood near a wall, like here for example, the camera would move in front of a wall, and it would cut out a bunch of stuff and look horrible, and there was a bunch of screen tearing. So we lowered the walls as a temporary fix. But in the future we want to have a hitbox where or a trigger box where if you walk into it, the wall will go down and you can see better, but if you go away from it, it turns back to a full wall. We had some issue with scale a bit. We were originally using a 2 meter by 1 meter capsule as our reference, and that's not human proportions. So we reduced the height and we reduced the size of some of these tables. For example, this dining table at the front middle of the main room. It was a bit too high, so what we went about doing is standing up near tables and figuring the height of them, and then adjusting them compared to our player character. A few other considerations I had to take place. I had to do was to make sure that the area was open, which isn't easy without making it feel empty. But I had to make sure that the walkways were fairly, free. So this front area I did consider the paths that the player might take. And things like that. Some other considerations. This rug, it's a small thing, but it's not like artistic choice, I guess. I wanted to have this offset, so the angle of it's tilted slightly up with this chair also, just slightly off angle, just so I could break off some of the really straight lines in this scene, because that would be easily recognizable. So just stuff like that to make it look more lived in, because we won't see tons of straight lines otherwise, This stone texture, I increased its size, so I increased the size of the tiles to basically double what it was. This really made the scene look more filled in, I guess. The smaller texture made it seem like, oh, there should be something here. You'll see it in the earlier. It just seemed a bit emptier, for lack of a better word. What else did I do? The walls, I added a texture to them, obviously. I lowered them down from the other scene. I also added in this rectangle on the inside of the windows, which emitted a white light, just to give the illusion of light pouring in. And I stocked all the shelves, because this is supposed to be a storage area, but it's also a pseudo study, because you have the books in the middle, and then you have all the jars which represent resources and everything. Another thing I wanted to do is to accentuate the struggle against time that is represented by our tutorial level. I made sure to scatter around a whole lot of hourglasses around the level. These aren't quite as visible as I'd like, so I'd probably make them a bit bigger. But these are some of the considerations that I took into account when making this level. I think that's all I have to speak about. So I'll see you in another 2 weeks. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.